the next thing I must do, I'm sorry I won't go on for too long, but I must give my thanks to everybody who's helped tonight. All the amazing SAFE volunteers who've just worked their socks off to make this night happen. Our lovely musicians who've all volunteered to come and play. Jane and Frederic and Christoph, who's enabled them to come, and Johnny Burrell and the Cooler Shaker, Crispin Mills and the Cooler Shaker group, and the two kids who are playing downstairs for us, Hero and Rona. Thank you all so much for giving this to us tonight. It's made the whole evening really special. I also want to thank Eurostar, because they brought Jane and her crew over. And so thank you, Jeremy and Camille, if you're here, for arranging all of that. That was terrific. And thanks to Alan, of course. Mr. Sessions, Mr. John Sessions, alias Alan Rickman. I'd like to make Sven. We have this wonderful chap called Sven, who's a chef at the Ritz, who's done all the food tonight. Thank you, Sven. You're an angel. And there's one other, apart from my lovely trustees and patrons, there's one other little group that I'd like to thank who are so special to us. Anne and I teaches dance, ballet, in a little Sandra Pepper's school in North London, a ballet school. And last year and this year, these kids have donated all the things they've grown out of, their ballet shoes, their leotards and everything. And last year, every single one of the kids in our little ballet class had the full RAD. You can see from the photographs on the wall, they had the full equipment. And the amazing thing was that they came in all scruffy and dirty, and they put on these beautiful things, and they felt like dancers, and they became dancers. And it was very, very special. So thanks to Sandra Pepper's kids. I won't go on. I hope I haven't forgotten anybody really important that I should have thanked. And if I have, please forgive me. I'm a bit nervous, so I might have done that. But before I go, I can tell you that we work with 500 children, and that sounds amazing. But if I tell you two stories of two particular children whose lives have been profoundly changed by Anna's Africa, it might help you understand why we go out there so willingly and why we're so excited to be there. The first is a little girl called Zulea. Zulea's 8 years old now. At 5, she was brutally raped by a neighbour in the slums. And I met her one afternoon. I was standing in the playground of the school, and I met her with Sally, who's the coordinator for St. John's Charity School, and she was standing with her thumb in her mouth. And Sally told me her story, and she said, could you join the ballet class? And I said, of course she can. So Zulea went on to the ballet class, and 6 weeks later, she was transformed. This little introverted girl was extrovert and smiling and happy, and whereas before she'd sort of shied away if you touched her, she clung to Anna. From the moment Anna arrived in the morning to the moment she left at night, this little girl of Zulea was clinging to her, beaming with smiles. And even though she was partially deafened by the violence of the rape, she became one of the very best dancers in the class. So that's Zulea. The other child I want to tell you about is Bob. We all love Bob. Bob has been with us for 2 years, and he's about 14 now, and he was a compulsive runaway. Not surprising. His father beat him regularly. His sister and his 2 siblings and his mother are both HIV positive. So poor Bob trailed these little brother and sister around after him every day. He was always being asked to do things domestic. He could never really be free to go to school. And whenever he got beaten too badly, he ran away, and whenever he came back, he got beaten again. So when we arrived last time, it wasn't to be seen. He was on walkabout. And I just thought, this is so sad, because he was one of the ones I looked forward to seeing most. However, he heard we were back. Bob turned up, came up to the school, having had another beating, and he wanted to join the circus troupe, but we couldn't put him with the acrobatic team because his attendance was somewhat irregular, so we turned him into a stilt walker. And Bob, you can see the pictures on the wall, Bob became a brilliant stilt walker, and by the end of the course, it was Bob who headed the parade. At the end of each session, we do a parade through the slums and a big open day. Bob headed the parade through the slums and came back, and he was the ringmaster for the circus group. And his father stood looking up at him, with such admiration and pride. So we just hope that Bob will now perhaps be beaten less, or at least perhaps not so harshly. And he will be back with us this year because he really does have a future as a circus performer. So those are 2 particular kids. Of course, there are 500 others. I won't keep you any longer to tell you about them. But before I finish, there are many children who won't make it, for whom this adventure with Anna's Africa is just the journey. And Anna and I talked a lot about this when he was alive. We talked about the fact that the journey was what mattered and that the destination wasn't so important. And for many of these children, that's all they will have is the journey, because the child mortality rate is so high. So before I go, can I just read you these few lines that Anna wrote about the journey for these children? The journey is one never ending. The journey is all. I'm part of it all. I'm the heart of it all, and it is my heart. It gives me my air and my tears. I'm born of it. I'll die to it. Its hand is always on me. Its words carry me. So bless you, Anna. Your bold heart will continue to beat on through these children. And thank you, everybody, and thank you for your support.